Dalara's station floated in the darkness between stars. A massive wheel of metal and light where hundreds of species came to trade and talk. Inside the diplomatic quarter, Jinho stood at the window of his small office and watched ships arrive and depart. He had been here for 3 years now, long enough to recognize most of the vessel designs by sight. The sleek Nethera crystal ships, the bulky Vren cargo haulers, the elegant curves of Luminae energy pods. His door chimed. Murray walked in carrying 2 cups of something that smelled like coffee but wasn't quite right. Nothing on the station tasted exactly like home. She set 1 cup on his desk and took her usual seat by the window. "Telos is waiting in conference room 3, she said. "He seems worried." Jinho picked up the cup and nodded. Telos was their friend, though most species in the galaxy would find that word strange. The Lyran were small, barely reaching Jinho's chest, with smooth amphibious skin that shifted between blue and green depending on their mood. They had no military to speak of, no rare minerals on their worlds, no strategic importance whatsoever. Most of the powerful species barely remembered the Lyran existed, but Jinho and Murray had spent years working with them on cultural exchange programs. They had eaten at Telos's home, met his family, watched his children perform their traditional water dances. The Lyran created the most beautiful art in the galaxy, sculptures and paintings that seemed to capture emotion itself. More importantly, they were kind. Genuinely, deeply kind in a way that felt rare among the stars. They found Telos in the conference room, his skin flickering between dark green and gray. Bad signs. When Lyran were calm, they showed bright colors. Darkness meant fear. "Thank you for coming," Telos said, his voice carrying the slight musical quality all Lyran had. "I did not know who else to ask." Jinho sat down across from him. "What happened?" "The Krev Dominion has filed a territorial claim with the Galactic Council. They say our worlds fall within their expansion rights. Historical borders from before we evolved intelligence." Tylos's hands shook slightly. "They've given us 3 months to evacuate or accept absorption into their empire." Murray leaned forward. "That's insane. Your people have lived on those worlds for thousands of years." "The council can't just—" "The council already voted," Telos interrupted. His skin went completely gray now. "They declared it a regional dispute. They will not intervene. We are too small. Too unimportant. The ambassador from the Nethera said we should be honored. The Krev are willing to let us live as servants rather than simply exterminating us." Jinho felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had heard rumors about how the council operated, but this was the first time he had seen it directly. The math was simple and brutal. The Krev Dominion had ships, armies, resources. The Lyran had art and kindness. In the galaxy's ledger, that equation had only one answer. "What will your people do?" Murray asked quietly. "Evacuate, I suppose." "We have no choice. Our 2 worlds hold nearly 4 billion Lyran. We have no military ships, no weapons factories. If we resist, they will kill us all. If we leave, we become refugees scattered across the galaxy." Telos looked down at his hands. "I came to say goodbye. I wanted to thank you both for your friendship. It meant more than you know." Jinho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, a Krev warship sat in dock for repairs. It looked like a dagger made of dark metal, all sharp angles and weapon ports. The Krev had conquered 17 species in the last century. They were very good at it, Jinho said. Telos looked up. "I do not understand." I said, "No. You're not evacuating. You're not becoming refugees. And you're sure as hell not becoming slaves to those scaled bastards." Murray stood up too. "Jinho, we can't what? Can't help our friends? Can't do the right thing because some committee of cowards says it's not worth the trouble?" He turned to face them both. "I'm calling Earth. I don't care what it takes." Tylos's skin flickered with confused yellows and oranges. "Earth cannot help. Humans are new to the galaxy. You have been here only 50 years. The Krev would destroy you," maybe Jinho admitted, "but we're going to try anyway." He opened a communication channel to Earth. The lag was annoying, but bearable. When the connection cleared, he found himself looking at Ambassador Doyon, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. Doyen listened to the situation without interrupting. When Ginho finished, Doyon was quiet for a long moment.
Oh,
You understand what you're asking?
Doyon finally said, "The Krev Dominion has 3 times our military strength. If we intervene, we risk everything. Every human colony, Earth itself." "I know," Ginho said. "I'm asking anyway." Another long silence. Then Doyon nodded slowly. "Let me talk to President Yunji. Stay on the station. Don't do anything stupid." The channel closed. Tilo stared at Ginho with wide eyes. "You would truly risk your species for mine? We offer you nothing. No resources. No advantage. We are not worth such a sacrifice." Myray put her hand on Tylos's shoulder. "You're our friends. That's worth everything." 2 weeks passed. The station filled with more ships as the Krev began assembling their invasion force. Ginho and Myray watched the military build up with growing dread. Tilo spent his days trying to organize evacuation plans, but where could 4 billion refugees go? No one wanted them. The council had made that clear. Then the human ships arrived. Jinho was in the station's main observation deck when he saw them drop out of faster-than-light travel. 12 massive battle carriers, their hulls painted in Earth's colors. 47 destroyers arranged in perfect formation. Hundreds of smaller craft filling the space between. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Hyanwu's face appeared on every screen in the station. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. "This is the Human Defense Fleet. We are establishing a protective perimeter around the Lyran homeworlds. Any hostile action toward our allies will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." The station erupted in chaos. The council members present started screaming protests. The Krev ambassador demanded to know what the humans thought they were doing. Ships from a dozen species began emergency departures. Not wanting to be near what looked like the start of a war, Jinho stood very still, watching the fleet position itself. He thought about all the things that could go wrong. All the ways this could end with humanity destroyed and the Lyran extinct anyway. But then he looked at Tylos, who stood beside him with his skin showing the brightest blue Jinho had ever seen. "Hope blue. Joy blue." "Your people are mad," Tylos whispered. "Wonderfully, impossibly mad." "Yeah," Jinho agreed. "We probably are."
Myray
Joined them at the window. "The council is demanding we stand down. They're threatening sanctions. Trade embargoes. They're saying we're violating galactic law." "Let them say it," Jinho replied. "We're done playing by rules that let monsters eat our friends." Outside, the human fleet hung in space like a shield between the Lyran worlds and everything that wanted to hurt them. It was beautiful and terrible and probably doomed to failure. But it was also something the galaxy hadn't seen in a very long time. It was someone standing up and saying, "No, the math doesn't matter. The odds don't matter. Cold calculation can go to hell. Our friends need us, and that's enough." Ambassador Doyon stood before the Galactic Council and knew he was wasting his breath. The chamber was enormous, designed to make individual speakers feel small. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sections, each one looking down at him from elevated platforms. The Nethera gleamed like living crystals. The Vren chittered among themselves in their insectoid language. The Luminae flickered with what might have been amusement or contempt. Hard to tell with energy beings. "The Lyran have committed no crime," Doyon said, keeping his voice level. "They pose no threat to anyone. Yet you sit here and allow their extinction because it's convenient for your politics? Is this what galactic civilization means? Is this the great enlightened community humanity was so eager to join?" The Nethera Prime speaker let out a sound like wind chimes, laughing. "Ambassador Doyon, your species is young. You do not understand the complexities of maintaining galactic order. The Krev Dominion's territorial claims have historical merit. The Lyran are too weak to defend themselves. This is how nature works. How evolution works. The strong survive? The strong survive?" Doyon felt his anger rising, but pushed it down. "We left that thinking behind on Earth 200 years ago. Apparently we're more advanced than we thought. Several representatives made disapproving sounds. The Vryn Hive Queen clicked her mandibles. You dare insult this council? You who have been among the stars for barely 5 decades? Your arrogance matches your ignorance. My ignorance, Doyen said slowly, is believing that any civilization calling itself advance would let 4 billion innocents die because helping them isn't profitable. My mistake. I see now what you really are. He walked out before they could respond. Behind him, the council erupted in angry debate. Let them debate. Humanity had already made its choice. Back on Earth. President Yoonji sat in the Situation Room surrounded by her military advisors and cabinet members. The holographic display showed the Lyran system with human ships in defensive positions. Further out, the Krev fleet was assembling. The numbers looked bad. Really bad. 40%, Yoonji repeated. That's 300,000 personnel. Yes, ma'am. And if the Krev push past us to Earth's colonies, we won't have enough ships left to defend them. We could lose everything. Youngji looked around the room. Anyone want to tell me we should pull back? Silence. Finally, Defense Minister ECL spoke up. No, ma'am. The decision is yours, but every person in this room knows what's at stake. If we abandon the Lyran now, we tell the galaxy that human friendship means nothing, that we only stand by our allies when it's convenient, that we're just like the Council. And if we lose, then we lose standing by our principles. There are worse ways to go. Yoonji closed her eyes briefly. She thought about the reports from Valeris Station, about Jinho and Mireille refusing to evacuate, about Telos and his family waiting to see if humanity would really keep its promise. She thought about her own children, and what kind of galaxy she wanted them to grow up in. Send the order, she said. All available ships to the Lyran system. Make it clear to the Krev that if they want those worlds, they go through us first. On Valeris Station, Jinho received evacuation orders from Earth's diplomatic corps. They were polite but firm. All non-military personnel were to leave the sector immediately. Too dangerous. Too volatile. Come home where it's safe. He deleted the message and sent a response to Admiral Hunwoo instead. Diplomatic team remaining on station. We started this. We'll see it through. Mireille found him staring out at the human fleet. We just told Earth Command to shove their evacuation orders, didn't we? We did good. I wasn't planning to leave anyway. She handed him a data pad. Telos sent this. It's a letter from the Lyran people. To us. To humanity. Junho read it. The Lyran had a way with words that made human poetry look clumsy. But the message was simple enough. They were grateful. They were terrified. They couldn't believe anyone would do this for them. They promised that if humanity survived this, the Lyran would remember. Their children would remember. Their children's children would remember. I think we're going to die for them, Jinho said quietly. We might. We might. The Krev response came 3 days later. Their war commander, Krethis, sent a message directly to Admiral Hinwoo. Ginho watched it in the station's command center, along with several dozen other observers. Krethis was typical Krev, nearly 3 meters tall with scales like dark armor and eyes that showed no warmth. Human Admiral, your fleet is impressive for such a young species, but you are outnumbered and outmatched. The Lyran worlds belong to the Krev, Dominion, by right of conquest and historical precedent. Leave now, and we will forget this insult. Stay, and we will teach you why our empire has never lost a war. Admiral Hyanwoo's response was brief. Commander Krethis, you will not touch the Lyran. You will not set foot on their worlds. You will not harm a single one of our friends. Turn your fleet around and go home. This is your only warning. Krethis's expression might have been amusement. Hard to read, Krev faces. You would die for a species that offers you nothing? No resources? No strategic value? No trade worth protecting? This is madness. Call it what you want, Hyanwoo replied. The answer is no. They're under our protection. End of discussion. The Krev fleet began moving forward. Not fast, not aggressive, but advancing, testing, seeing if the humans would really fight, or if this was just posturing. On the human flagship, Hunhua addressed his captains on a private channel. Jinho had clearance to listen in, a courtesy from the admiral who appreciated civilians with enough guts to stay in the danger zone. They think we're bluffing, Hunhua said. They think because we're new, we're soft. They think friendship is weakness. They're wrong on all counts. But I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we really fight for the Lyran, the galaxy is going to change. They'll see us differently. Some will respect us. Some will fear us. Some will hate us. But no one will ever doubt us again. One of the captains spoke up. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Granted. Sir, I've been in the service for 20 years. I've fought pirates and rebels and smugglers. Never thought I'd go to war for an alien species I'd never met until 6 months ago. But I've read the reports about the Lyran, talked to the crew who visited their worlds. They're good people. They deserve better than what the galaxy's giving them. So I'm ready. We all are. Murmurs of agreement from the other captains. Hunhua nodded slowly. Then let's show the Krev what humans do for their friends. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage. Ginho watched the tactical display as both fleets positioned themselves. The Krev had more ships, bigger ships, more experience, but the human formation was tighter, more coordinated. And there was something else in the way they moved. A determination that looked like madness to anyone who thought in terms of profit and loss. Telos stood beside him, his skin cycling through colors too fast to track. Fear and hope mixing together. Why? He asked for perhaps the 100th time. Why would you do this? Ginho thought about how to answer. How to explain something that shouldn't need explanation. Because you're our friends, and that's enough. It has to be enough. If we live in a galaxy where friendship doesn't matter, where only power and profit count, then what's the point of civilization? What's the point of any of this? The Council says you are naive. The Council's about to learn what naive humans can do when you threaten their friends. Krev fleet crossed the line in space that Hunhua had designated as his perimeter. Alarms began wailing throughout Valeris Station. Ships that could flee were fleeing. Neutral observers were backing off to safe distances. Everyone wanted to witness this, but no one wanted to get caught in the crossfire. Murray grabbed Jinho's hand. Here we go. Krev opened fire first. Hundreds of energy weapons lighting up the darkness. The human fleet responded instantly. Their own weapons creating a wall of destruction between the Krev and the Lyran worlds. The battle had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first human ship to die was the destroyer Defiant. Ginho watched it happen on the tactical display. A bright dot representing 300 human lives simply disappearing as Krev weapons tore through its hull. He felt sick. This was real now. Not politics or posturing. Real people dying in the cold darkness of space. But the rest of the human fleet didn't break. Didn't scatter. They tightened their formation and pushed forward, their weapons burning through Krev shields. For every human ship that fell, 2 Krev vessels went dark. The math was brutal on both sides. Commander Krethis had expected the humans to be skilled. Young species often had fresh tactical perspectives. What he hadn't expected was the sheer ferocity. Human ships fought like cornered animals, except they weren't cornered. They had room to retreat. They had safe positions to fall back to. They just weren't using them. What are they doing? His tactical officer hissed, "The cruiser Resolute has taken critical damage. It should be withdrawing. Instead, it's moving forward." Krethis watched the damaged human ship limp toward a Krev battlecruiser, still firing despite having half its weapons destroyed. The human captain was either insane or operating under orders that made no sense. Ships were valuable. Crew were valuable. You didn't throw them away for no gain, but the humans were gaining something. Every second they held the line, the Lyran worlds behind them remained untouched. That was all that seemed to matter to them. "Send the flanking force," Krethis ordered. "Swing wide around their defensive perimeter. If they won't break from frontal assault, we'll force them to split their fleet." The Krev flanking maneuver was textbook military strategy. 20 fast attack ships breaking off from the main battle, using the confusion and explosions for cover, then burning hard toward the Lyran worlds. By the time the humans noticed, it would be too late. The attack force would be in range to bombard the surface. They almost made it, Captain. Soman commanded the destroyer Indomitable, positioned at the edge of the human defensive line. Her sensor officer caught the Krev flanking force on long-range scans, and Salman understood immediately what was happening. She also understood her ship was the only one in position to intercept. Helm, intercept course. Maximum burn. Weapons. Prepare everything we have. Her executive officer looked at the numbers. Captain, that's 20 ships. We're one destroyer with damaged forward shields. We can't stop them all. Don't need to stop them all. Just need to slow them down long enough for help to arrive. Indomitable screamed across space on a course that would put it directly between the Krev attack force and the Lyran worlds. Salman opened a channel to Admiral Hunwu. Admiral, enemy flanking force approaching Sector 7. I'm moving to intercept. Requesting backup. Hyunwoo's face appeared on her screen, and Salman saw him glance at his tactical display. Saw him calculate distances and response times. They both knew no backup would arrive in time. Understood, Captain? Do what you can. Reinforcements are en route. Indomitable out. She closed the channel and looked at her crew. Young faces. Old Fa. Seas. People she'd served with for years. People who trusted her to bring them home. I won't lie to you. This is going to hurt. But there are 4 billion Lyran down there who don't have shields or weapons or any way to defend themselves. We're all they've got for the next 10 minutes. So let's make it count. The crew set to their stations without hesitation. Salman felt a fierce pride in that moment. Whatever else happened, these were good people doing a good thing. The Krev attack force saw the Indomitable coming and barely slowed. 1 ship against 20. The outcome was obvious. They opened fire with enough weapons to vaporize the destroyer instantly. But Salman had been flying combat vessels for 15 years. She knew every trick, every maneuver, every way to squeeze extra seconds of survival from a dying ship. The Indomitable danced through the incoming fire, its point defense systems screaming as they tried to intercept missiles and energy blasts. Some got through. The ship shuddered with each impact. Shields down to 30%, her tactical officer reported. 20%. 10%. Shields are gone, Captain. Its armor will hold. Keep firing. The destroyer's weapons carved through space, targeting engines and weapon systems on the Krev ships. Salman wasn't trying to destroy them, just damage them. Slow them down. By time, 1 minute passed. 2, 3. The Indomitable was dying. Its hull breaching in 6 places, fires spreading through the lower decks. But the Krev attack force had slowed to engage the crazy human ship that wouldn't die. Precious minutes slipping away. Captain, her communications officer said quietly, evacuation transports are launching from the Lyran surface. They detected the attack force. They're getting the children out. Salman nodded. Good, that was good. That was worth it. The Indomitable took a direct hit to its main reactor. The ship went dark except for emergency systems. Salman knew what came next. She'd seen ships die before. There would be about 30 seconds before the reactor containment failed completely. Oh, hands. Abandoned ship. Everyone to the escape pods. That's an order. Her crew moved with practiced efficiency. No panic, no hesitation. They'd trained for this. Within 20 seconds, the pods were launching, scattering in different directions to make themselves harder targets. Somin stayed in her chair. Captains traditionally went down with their ships, but that wasn't why she stayed. She stayed because the helm still responded, and she could still point the Indomitable. In one last useful direction, she aimed the dying ship at the largest Krev vessel in the attack force and locked the helm. Then she opened a channel to the Krev commander. This is Captain Soman of the human destroyer Indomitable. Tell your families you died protecting someone worth protecting. Tell them it meant something. Because where you're going, no one will remember your names. but the Lyran will remember ours. The reactor detonated. The Indomitable became a missile of metal and fire, slamming into the Krev vessel at a significant fraction of light speed. Both ships vanished in a ball of white light that briefly looked like a new star being born. On Valera's station, Ginho watched it happen and felt tears on his face. He hadn't known Captain Sulman, didn't know if she had family waiting for her, didn't know what her dreams had been, but he knew what she'd done and why she'd done it. Myrae stood beside him, her hand over her mouth. The evacuation transports made it out. They're clear. She bought them the time they needed. She bought it with her life. Yes, she did. Tylos's skin had gone completely white, a Lyran-colored Jinho had never seen before. I do not understand your species. I will never understand your species. That captain died for children she never met. For a species that isn't even hers. That's what friends do, Jinho said simply. That's what humanity does. The main battle continued to rage. More ships died on both sides. But something had changed. The Krev forces were fighting more cautiously now, less aggressively. They'd seen what humans would do when defending their allies. They'd seen ships deliberately ramming their vessels. Seen crews fight to the last breath. Seen tactics that defied every reasonable military doctrine. Commander Krethis pulled his fleet back to regroup. Not a retreat. Just a tactical withdrawal, but everyone watching knew what it meant. The Krev had expected to sweep through the human fleet in a few hours. Instead, they'd been fighting for 6 hours and hadn't gained any ground. The human defensive line still held. On the human flagship, Admiral Hyunwoo reviewed the casualty reports. 12 ships destroyed. 8 more heavily damaged. Nearly 40,000 human personnel dead or wounded. The numbers were staggering, but the Lyran worlds remained untouched. Not a single Krev ship had gotten through. Not one. He opened a channel to all remaining ships. This is Admiral Hyunwoo. I know you're tired. I know we've lost friends today. Good people who deserved better than dying in the darkness. But look at what we've accomplished. Look at what we've held. The Krev thought we would break. They thought friendship was weakness. They were wrong. They're still wrong. We hold the line. We protect our friends. That's what humans do. That's what we'll always do. Hyunwoo out. Across the human fleet, exhausted crews returned to their stations with renewed determination. They'd lost people. They'd probably lose more before this was over. But they'd proven something important, not just to the Krev, but to themselves. Some things were worth fighting for. Some things were worth dying for. And friendship, real friendship, was at the top of that list. The galaxy was watching. And the galaxy was beginning to understand something it had forgotten. Sometimes the most dangerous species wasn't the strongest or the most advanced. Sometimes it was the species crazy enough to stand between monsters and their friends, no matter the cost. The Galactic Council convened again, this time with real urgency. The human-Krev battle had been raging for 3 days now. Neither side was backing down. Trade routes were being disrupted. Neutral species were getting nervous. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. Small conflicts got resolved quickly. The powerful made demands, the weak complied. And galactic order was maintained. Ambassador Doyan stood before the council once more, but this time he wasn't asking for help. He was informing them of reality. The human fleet will not withdraw, he said calmly. Every ship we have can be replaced. Every life we lose will be remembered. But our friends will not be abandoned. If the Krev want the Lyran worlds, they'll have to go through every last human in the galaxy. The Nethera Prime speaker's crystalline form pulsed with irritation. This is unacceptable. You are destabilizing the entire sector over an insignificant species. We demand you withdraw immediately. Demand all you want. The answer is no. That's when Council Arbiter Vresh made his move. Vresh was a Lumine, a being of pure energy contained in a force field. Impossible to read emotions from, perfect for delivering calculated lies. Ambassador Doyon, we have discovered something disturbing about the Lyran. Vresh's voice resonated through the chamber. Our scientists have detected a dangerous pathogen on their worlds. If left unchecked, it could spread throughout the galaxy. The Krev invasion may have been crude, but they were actually attempting to contain a biological threat. Doyon stared at him. That's a lie. We have evidence. Images appeared in the air showing complex molecular structures. Scientific data that looked impressive to anyone who wasn't an expert. The Lyran themselves may not know their carriers, but this explains why the Council couldn't defend them. We were protecting the greater good. Several Council members nodded along. It was a convenient story. It turned the Lyran from victims into threats. It made the Council's inaction look like wisdom rather than cowardice. Doyon was opening his mouth to respond when another voice cut through the chamber. That's fascinating. Arbiter Vresh, tell me, did you fabricate those images yourself? Or did you have the Nathara do it for you? Everyone turned. A human male walked into the council chamber, flanked by 2 security personnel. He moved with quiet confidence, carrying a data device in his hand. Doyon recognized him immediately. Taiwan, head of human intelligence operations in this sector. This is a closed council session, Vresh said, his energy field flickering. You have no authority here. You're right. I don't. But I have something better. I have the truth. Taiwan activated his device, and images flooded every screen in the chamber. Documents, communications logs. Financial records? 6 months ago, the Council received intelligence about the Krev invasion plans. You knew it was coming. You could have warned the Lyran, could have positioned peacekeeping forces, could have done literally anything. The council chamber erupted in denials and protests. Taiwan ignored them and continued, but you didn't warn anyone, because you were waiting. Waiting for the Krev to conquer the Lyran worlds, waiting because those worlds sit on top of something valuable. More images appeared. Geological surveys showing massive deposits of exotic matter buried deep beneath the Lyran surface. The kind of exotic matter needed for faster-than-light travel. The kind worth trillions of credits? The plan was simple, Taiwan said, his voice carrying clearly through the chaos. Let the Krev do the dirty work of conquest. Then negotiate with them to split the resources. The Lyran never had to know what was under their feet, and the council members here would get rich while maintaining their image as civilized. Arbiters of justice. Council Arbiter Vresh's energy field was flickering wildly now. These documents are fabricated. This is human propaganda design too. The documents are authenticated with your own security codes, Taiwan interrupted. Codes that can't be faked. I know, because I tried to fake them first. Couldn't do it. These are real. Paused. But that's not even the worst part. Taiwan pulled up another file. This one showed a list of species names, dates, outcomes. Over the last 3 centuries, the Council has allowed 18 species to be conquered or exterminated. Not because they couldn't stop it, because it was convenient. Because maintaining the balance of power among the major races was more important than saving the weak. Because the strong survive and everyone else is disposable. The chamber went silent. Even the counselors who'd been protesting stopped. This was too specific, too detailed, too true the Yelny Collective, extinct 50 years ago. You watched it happen. The Porva absorbed into the Vryn hives. You called it natural expansion. The Kishari, conquered by the Krev 20 years ago. You negotiated the spoils afterward. Taiwan looked around at all of them. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me any of this is false. No one spoke, because they couldn't. The evidence was there, laid out for anyone to see. The Great Galactic Council, the supposedly enlightened alliance of civilized species, had been operating like a criminal cartel for centuries. President Yunji's image appeared on the main display. She was broadcasting from Earth, but her message was being transmitted across the entire galaxy. Every species with communication technology would hear this. People of the galaxy, she began. Today, we learned the truth about the Galactic Council. We learned that the organization meant to protect all species only protects the powerful. We learned that justice is for sale, and the price is paid in the lives of those too weak to matter. She paused, letting that sink in. The human species joined the galactic community 50 years ago with hope. We believed we were entering a civilization that had evolved beyond the cruelty and injustice we'd overcome on Earth. We were wrong. The galaxy is run by the same forces we fought against on our own world: power, greed, the willingness to sacrifice others for convenience. Yunji's expression hardened. So here's what happens now. Humanity is founding a new alliance. We're calling it the Compact of Free Worlds. Any species tired of being pawns in the Council's games is welcome. Any species that believes friendship and loyalty matter more than profit and power has a home with us. We'll defend each other, support each other, stand beside each other when it costs us everything. On Velaris Station, Ginho watched the broadcast with growing amazement. Yunji wasn't just calling out the Council. She was offering an alternative, a different way forward. The Compact's first member is humanity, Yungi continued. Our second is the Lyran, who we're proud to call friends. Who will be third? Who will stand with us and say that civilization means more than just power? That friendship is worth fighting for? That some things matter more than profit? The broadcast ended. The galaxy held its breath. Then the responses started coming in. Small species at first. The Pethera, a race of amphibians, similar to the Lyran. The Koru, peaceful herbivores who'd been paying tribute to the Krev for decades. The Ashan artists and philosophers who'd never had military protection. One by one, species that the Council had ignored or exploited announced they were joining the Compact. Within 6 hours, 16 species had signed on. More were considering it. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and the Council was scrambling to respond. On the human flagship, Admiral Hunhua received a priority message from Earth Command. He read it twice to make sure he understood correctly, then smiled grimly. He opened a channel to Commander Krethis. Commander, I'm authorized to inform you that the situation has changed. The Lyran worlds are now officially under the protection of the Compact of Free Worlds. Any attack on them is an attack on all 16 member species. I suggest you calculate the odds on that fight. Krethis appeared on screen, his scaled face showing something that might have been respect. You've changed the galaxy, Admiral. I'm not sure if that makes you brilliant or insane. It's probably both. The question is, do you still want to fight? Because we're ready if you are. But I think you've seen what humans do to protect their friends. Now imagine that multiplied across 16 species who all think the same way. The Krev commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. The Dominion will withdraw. Not from fear, but because conquering the Lyran isn't worth fighting a war against an alliance of madmen. I'll take that as a compliment. The Krev fleet began powering down weapons and turning away from the Lyran system. The battle was over. Humanity and its new allies had won. But Jinho, watching from Velaris Station, knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had learned the truth about the Council. And it had learned something else too. Never threaten humanity's friends. Because humans didn't calculate cost versus benefit. They didn't weigh profit against loss. They just fought. And they never, ever stopped fighting until their friends were safe. The galaxy would have to figure out how to deal with that. The Krev withdrawal should have ended the crisis. But the Galactic Council wasn't ready to accept defeat. 3 days after the Krev fleet departed, a massive Council armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Lyran system. Ships from every major species. Nethera crystal ships, Vren wars worms, Luminae energy cruisers, even some species Jinho couldn't identify. The fleet outnumbered humanity's forces 10-1. Admiral Hunwu stared at the tactical display with the kind of calm that comes from accepting impossible situations. His communication officer looked pale. Admiral, the Council fleet is broadcasting on all channels. They're demanding our immediate surrender. They say we've violated galactic law, destabilized the region, and formed an illegal alliance. We have 1 hour to power down weapons and prepare to be escorted back to Earth for trial. Trial for what? One of the captains asked over the command channel. For having friends? Hunwu pulled up the data on the Council fleet. It was comprehensive, professional, overwhelming. A show of force designed to make resistance look suicidal. "Get me, President Yonji." Connection took a few minutes. When Yonji appeared on screen, she looked tired but determined. "I've seen the Council fleet, Admiral. I'm not ordering you to fight that. If you need to withdraw, I'll authorize it. You've already done more than anyone could ask. With respect, Madam President, I don't think we're withdrawing, but I need authorization to use Protocol Epsilon." Yenji's eyes widened. "Admiral, that protocol is... We built those assets hoping we'd never need them. But the Council needs to understand we're not backing down. Not now, not ever. Our friends are counting on us." There was a long silence. Then Yonji nodded. "You have authorization. God help us all." Yonji out. Yunhua opened a fleet-wide channel. "Every human ship, every captain, every crew member, this is Admiral Hyunwoo. For the last 50 years, since humanity joined the galactic community, we've been building ships. Lots of ships. The Council knew about some of them. The ones we showed off during exercises. The ones we've parked in obvious locations. What they didn't know is that we've been building twice as many in secret locations. Hidden shipyards in remote systems. Construction facilities disguised as mining operations. We learned from Earth's history. You join a new community, you hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst." He paused, watching the tactical display. Protocol Epsilon is now active. All hidden fleet elements decloak and jump to Rally Point Alpha. Across the sector, space began to ripple. Ships appeared from nowhere, dropping their stealth fields. More human vessels than anyone had known existed. Battle carriers with names like Defiance, Resolution, Unbowed. Cruiser squadrons that had been practicing maneuvers in empty systems for years. Destroyer wings that officially didn't exist. The human fleet doubled in size, then tripled. When the last ship appeared, humanity had nearly 1,500 military vessels in the Lyran system. The Council fleet still outnumbered them, but not by much. Not enough to guarantee an easy victory. On the Council flagship, Arbiter Vresh's energy field flickered with what might have been shock. Where did they hide all those ships? "Everywhere," his tactical officer replied. "They've been building them since first contact. They never trusted us. Smart of them," Vresh admitted quietly. But numbers weren't the only thing that had changed. As the Council fleet processed this new information, another message came through. This one from the Vren Hive Queen herself. "This is Hive Queen Tarasha. The Vren Hives are withdrawing from the Council fleet. We joined this expedition believing we were maintaining order. We now understand we are being asked to destroy species for having the courage to support each other. That is not what the Vren stand for. We will not participate in this." This atrocity, Vren ships, nearly a quarter of the Council fleet, began pulling back. Then the Porith Confederacy announced they were withdrawing too. Then the Santine Union. Species that had been part of the Council for centuries were refusing to fight. Hyunwoo watched it happen and allowed himself a small smile. The Compact of Free Worlds was... and just changing military calculations. It was changing how species thought about power and justice. He opened a channel to the entire Council fleet. Every ship, every commander. "This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the human fleet. I'm going to say something that might sound strange. We don't want to fight you. Not one bit. We've lost enough people already. I'm sure you have families waiting for you. People who love you. People who matter more than politics or territory or pride." He let that sit for a moment. "Here's what I think. I think most of you joined your militaries to protect your homes, to defend the people you care about. That's what we're doing too. We're protecting our friends. The Lyran, the Pathora, the Koru, all 16 species in the Compact. They're not threats. They're not criminals. They're just people who wanted someone to stand beside them when the strong came calling." Hyunwoo pulled up an image of Telos and his family. "This is Tylos. He's a Lyran artist. Makes sculptures that'll make you cry, they're so beautiful. He has 3 children. They're learning music from their mother. They're ordinary people living ordinary lives. The council wanted to let the Krev enslave them because it was convenient. We said no, that's all. We just said no. He paused again. So here's my question to all of you. Why are you here? Are you here because you believe the council is right? That friendship and loyalty are crimes that need punishment? Or are you here because someone gave you orders and you followed them without asking why? Silence. Then one of the council ships, a Nethera crystal ship, transmitted a message. Admiral Hunwu, this is Commander Sirith of the Harmonic Dawn. I have been listening to your words. I have been watching humans fight for 3 days. I have seen you sacrifice your own ships to protect a species that can offer you nothing. And I have realized something. My people joined the council, believing it stood for justice. I do not think it does anymore. The Harmonic Dawn is withdrawing. The crystal ship powered down weapons and moved away from the council formation. Then another ship joined it. Then another. Within an hour, half the council fleet had withdrawn, their commanders refusing to fight against an alliance defending friends. Arbiter. Fresh found himself commanding a fleet that no longer wanted to fight. He could order them to attack anyway. Force the issue. Start a war that would tear the galaxy apart. Or he could accept reality. He chose reality. This is Arbiter Vresh to all council forces. Stand down. Return to council space. This operation is concluded. The remaining council ships began departing. The crisis was over. The compact had won without firing another shot. But Hyunwoo knew this was bigger than one victory. The galaxy had changed fundamentally. Species were questioning the council's authority, asking why they followed orders from an organization that valued power over justice. The old order was cracking. On Valeris Station, Ginho stood with Mireille and Telos watching the displays. 16 species were now part of the compact. By tomorrow, it would probably be 20. By next week, who knew? Your people terrify me, Tylos said, but his skin showed bright, happy blues. In the best possible way. You risked everything. Lost thousands of your own. For us? For me and my family? Why? Ginho had been asked that question dozens of times now. The answer hadn't changed. Because you're our friends. That's it. That's the whole reason. The galaxy runs on calculations. On cold logic. On asking what's profitable and what's not. Humans don't work that way. We ask different questions. We ask who needs help. Who deserves better. Who's worth standing beside even when it costs us everything, Murray added. The council thinks we're naive. Maybe we are. But we'd rather be naive and decent than sophisticated and cruel. Ships from all 16 compact species were arriving now, setting up a permanent defense network around the Lyran worlds. Not just human ships anymore. The Pithara had sent their small fleet. The Koru contributed supply vessels. The Ashan offered medical ships. Everyone bringing what they could. Building something new? Dujan arrived on the station that evening, exhausted but smiling. The council has agreed to negotiations. They're not happy, but they're willing to talk about reforms. Representation for smaller species. Actual accountability. It's not everything, but it's a start. What made them agree? Jinho asked, fear mostly. 40 species have expressed interest in joining the compact. If that happens, the council loses its monopoly on galactic power. They either reform or become irrelevant. Doyan poured himself a drink that absolutely wasn't alcohol, but served the same purpose. You started something, Jinho. You and Mireille. By refusing to leave. By believing friendship mattered more than orders. We just did what felt right. It's exactly my point. You didn't calculate. Didn't analyze. Didn't weigh costs versus benefits. You just helped your friend. And somehow that simple act is reshaping the entire galaxy. Later that night, Jinho found himself in the station's observation deck, watching the Lyran worlds below. Lights from cities. Ordinary life continuing. Children growing up. Families safe. All because humanity had said a simple word. No, no, you can't hurt our friends. No, we won't stand aside. No, your rules don't apply when they tell us to abandon people we care about. Talos joined him at the window. There will be consequences. The Council will look for ways to undermine the compact. Species will test humanity's resolve. This is not over, I know. But you do not regret it. Jinho thought about Captain Salman and the 40,000 other humans who died in the last week. He thought about the ships destroyed, the families grieving, the terrible cost of standing firm. Then he thought about Tylos's children performing their water dances. Lyran artists creating beauty? 4 billion people living free? No, he said. No regrets. You're our friends. That's worth any cost. The galaxy will remember this. Not just the battles. The principle behind them? That some species value loyalty over profit. That some people choose conscience over calculation. Maybe it'll inspire others. Maybe more species will decide that friendship and solidarity matter. That protecting each other isn't weakness. It's the highest form of strength. Murray appeared carrying 3 cups of that not-quite coffee. President Yoonji is giving another speech. You should hear this. They pulled up the broadcast. Yoonji stood before cameras addressing the galaxy. Today, the Compact of Free Worlds proved something important. We proved that civilization isn't about having the biggest fleet or the most resources. It's about who you stand beside when standing costs everything. It's about saying that every species, every person, every life has value. Not because they're useful, not because they're profitable, but because they exist and they deserve protection. She smiled slightly. The old galaxy ran on cold calculation. On asking what's in it for me? The new galaxy, the one we're building together, asks different questions. It asks, who needs help? Who deserves better? Who's worth defending even when the odds are impossible? And the answer is simple. Everyone. Every species. Every friend. The broadcast ended. Ginho looked at Telos. So what now? Now we build something better. The compact grows. We establish real protections for smaller species. We show the galaxy there's another way forward. And if the Council tries to stop us, Tylos's skin flickered through complex patterns. Then they'll learn what the Krev learned. What everyone eventually learns. You don't threaten humanity's friends. Because humans are terrifying when defending people they love. Not because they're stronger or smarter, because they simply won't stop. Ever. Shino smiled. Yeah, that sounds about right. Outside the window, human ships and vessels from 16 other species moved in perfect formation, guarding the Lyran worlds. A shield made not of metal but of friendship, of loyalty, of a simple truth the galaxy had forgotten. Some things matter more than power. And humans would burn the galaxy down before they forgot that.